Buckle up, because this story is way messier than anyone thought. We're talking Steven Spielberg level messy. The Hollywood legend who gave us E.T., Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List is now reportedly eating his words over a casting decision that was supposed to be legendary but ended in disaster. Yes, we're talking about West Side Story and the girl who was supposed to be its crown jewel, Rachel Zegler. It all started with so much promise. Spielberg was gearing up for one of the most iconic remakes of our time, a reimagining of West Side Story. The world was curious. Could he pull it off? And then came the big reveal. A completely unknown actress, Rachel Zegler, was cast as Maria. People were stunned. Who was this fresh face? Spielberg hyped her up like she was the next Audrey Hepburn. The trailer dropped, and the praise instant.
Was I surprised? I wasn't. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised, because if you have peripheral vision, you're going to sense these things out of the corner of your eye. You can't not know that this has been going on rampantly.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
They're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarves, but they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole.
But here's the kicker. That glow didn't last long. In fact, the moment the cameras stopped rolling, so did the smiles. Behind closed doors, insiders were already whispering that Spielberg was regretting his decision. And not just because of a few minor hiccups. Nope. We're talking full-on, what have I done regret. Turns out, Rachel Zegler's off-camera attitude wasn't just bad, it was apparently horrific. Her vibe, according to insiders, she didn't just raise eyebrows, she ripped them off people's faces. Spielberg had envisioned discovering a breakout star. What he got? A PR disaster with diva complex.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Never let anybody tell you you can't do what you in your heart know you can.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means, and one could argue that sometimes it's used too liberally. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
And the other thing is simply to use what you're using right now to get this interview, and you can make an entire movie on that device right there.
Not by her acting. No, her talent was never the problem. It was her behavior. She was allegedly more focused on curating her own narrative, her image, her brand, than actually honoring the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity Spielberg handed her.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension. Racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just.
And it wasn't just the director feeling the tension. Everyone on set started to notice. Zegler reportedly clashed with Spielberg's famously collaborative environment. This wasn't a one-time outburst. This was a pattern, a tone, a vibe, the kind of energy that turns every day of filming into a battle and every press appearance into a landmine.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
They won't even
7
say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
And you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's gonna lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
And y'all know Hollywood talks fast. The whispers started as soon as the movie dropped. Insiders said Spielberg, who remained professional in public, completely distanced himself from Zegler behind the scenes. No more mentoring, no check-ins, no calls. It was as if he slammed the door and threw away the key.
Oh my God.
And in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes. Spielberg didn't just stop talking, he vanished from her orbit. But Rachel? She didn't seem to care. Instead of riding the Spielberg wave with humility and class, she leaned hard into this new image, smug, detached, and above it all. People who had never even worked with her started calling it out. It wasn't a clash of visions, it was a catastrophic misjudgment by one of the greatest directors of our time.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime, and let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
And Spielberg's regret? That was only the beginning. Back on set, Rachel's behavior was apparently a full-blown nightmare from day one. And let's be clear, this was her first ever film. No credits, no fame, nothing. But you'd think she was the second coming of Barbra Streisand the way she carried herself.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Sources say the arrogance came in hot. She walked onto set like she owned it, and not in the empowering, confident kind of way. More like, I run this, except she didn't. People were in disbelief. One crew member said she didn't even make it past her first scene before people were whispering.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
Hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Who does this girl think she is? And that's the mood that followed. Zegler reportedly challenged direction, questioned camera shots, gave unsolicited notes to Spielberg himself, and keep in mind, this is Steven Spielberg. At first, the director brushed it off as inexperience, but eventually, even he couldn't ignore the obvious. She wasn't nervous, she was entitled. One insider didn't hold back, calling it not just confidence, but full-blown delusion. The vibe on set? It turned cold. Veteran professionals were tiptoeing around her. Spielberg, known for handling every kind of personality, from child actors to A-listers, was apparently stunned. And it only got worse. Their once warm dynamic turned icy. Spielberg, who had once been her biggest cheerleader, reportedly became a quiet, watchful presence, like a man who realized too late he'd made a mistake. What was supposed to be a beautiful collaboration became strictly transactional. No praise, no warmth, just get through the day. And Zegler, according to insiders, she couldn't care less. While Spielberg was busy trying to salvage scenes, she was allegedly glued to her phone, tweeting vague quotes about self-worth and being misunderstood, while everyone else was just trying to finish the damn movie. And Spielberg risked everything casting her. He passed on established names to give her that moment, but according to insiders, she didn't value it, not even a little. And as filming dragged on, the tension got worse. It wasn't just internal anymore. The press tour? Oh honey, that's where the train really crashed. What should have been a celebration of an iconic debut turned into a cringe fest. The internet lit up. Fans started noticing something off. Rachel didn't just sound awkward, she came off bored, detached, entitled. Her co-stars would light up when talking about Spielberg and the legacy of West Side Story. Rachel, she'd pivot every answer back to herself. Always herself. And the worst part, she barely even acknowledged Spielberg, rarely mentioned the cast, barely acknowledged the legacy of the film. It was the Rachel show, period. She acted like she had already outgrown the role before the film even hit theaters. Critics started using words like narcissistic. PR teams scrambled to control the narrative, but it was too late. One interview clip went viral, not for what she said, but for how she said it. When asked what it was like being chosen by Spielberg, she brushed it off with a smirk and said, "He saw something. I'm not sure what." The arrogance, deafening. By the time that clip hit the internet, it was over. The damage was done. Rachel Zegler had hijacked what should have been a Spielberg renaissance, a return to musical glory, and turned it into an ego-fueled circus. The headlines? They weren't glowing reviews about Spielberg's direction or the film's emotional impact. Who is Rachel Zegler, and why does she seem so over it? Behind the scenes, Spielberg's team reportedly scrambled. PR reps tried everything, reworking talking points, tightening interviews, even whispering orders like, keep her on script. But it was too little too late. Rachel had taken the narrative and twisted it into a shrine for her own brand. What was supposed to be Spielberg's emotional comeback turned into the Rachel Zegler show, and not in a good way. The fans felt it, the industry felt it, and Spielberg, insiders say, he was exhausted. Not from promoting the film, but from watching the whole thing unravel in real time. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, buckle up, because that same energy followed Rachel straight into her next project. Enter Disney's Snow White. A classic, an icon, a chance at redemption. But Rachel, she fumbled that bag too, hard. From the jump, it was chaotic. Instead of honoring the legacy of the 1937 original, a film beloved across generations, Rachel publicly trashed it. She called it outdated, problematic, and basically dragged it through the feminist mud. Which might have flown in a different context, but when you're playing Snow White,
Girl,
read the room. Fans were livid. The internet exploded. People accused her of being disrespectful, of weaponizing her platform to alienate the very audience the film depended on. Disney tried damage control, but Rachel couldn't seem to help herself. And behind the scenes, it was just as messy. Sources said her relationship with her co-stars was strained, to put it nicely. The most talked about feud with none other than Gal Gadot, the evil queen herself. The two were supposed to have this electric on-screen rivalry, but what happened off-screen? Even juicier. Word is, Rachel referred to Gal as a professional pageant queen and not in a cute way. Insiders said the comment was loaded, condescending, and completely uncalled for. That kind of cattiness it leaves scars. Disney? Oh, they were watching, carefully, quietly, and when the internet turned against their leading lady, executives hit panic mode. Allegedly, they started limiting her press appearances, scrubbing interviews, coaching her on every word, because the Rachel backlash was becoming a full-blown PR crisis. And then came the box office numbers. Yikes. Snow White flopped. Hard. For a project with that kind of legacy, that kind of Disney power behind it, it was a disaster. And while there are always many factors behind a flop, one thing insiders and fans agreed on, Rachel's attitude didn't help. If anything, it sank the ship. People didn't want to support someone who seemed to mock the things she was promoting. The interviews felt cold, the vibe off. And suddenly, Rachel Zegler wasn't the darling newcomer anymore. She was the liability studios didn't want to deal with. And now she's scrambling. Rachel recently announced her latest project, a film titled She Gets It From Me, co-starring Marie Chateau, fresh slate. A new attempt. But let's be real, everyone can see what's going on here. This is damage control. Period. Sources close to the industry say this project is her Hail Mary, a last-ditch effort to prove she can still carry a film, that she can still work with people, that she's learned something. But insiders aren't convinced. They're saying it might be too late, because the thing Rachel doesn't seem to understand, talent opens the door, but attitude decides whether you get to stay in the room. She had every chance, a Spielberg debut, a Disney princess role, and yet, time after time, she turned golden opportunities into cautionary tales. And Spielberg? He hasn't said much. He doesn't have to. That silence, the complete lack of follow-up, of collaboration, of support, says more than any quote ever could. He launched her career, and then he walked away. Quietly, fully, completely. Like someone who doesn't want his name anywhere near that energy ever again. Hollywood's watching, and so is the audience. The question now isn't what Rachel Zegler's next role is. It's whether anyone still wants her in one. Because for all the talent she might have, and all the fame she almost captured, she's become the poster child for what happens when ego eats opportunity alive. This wasn't just a bad set experience, or a couple of awkward interviews. This was a series of moves, bold, brash, and completely self-centered, that alienated everyone who tried to lift her up. Steven Spielberg gave her the role of a lifetime, and according to insiders, he regrets it badly. And that, in Hollywood, is the kind of regret that echoes for years.